Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we've got another newsroom review here to discuss. In today's video, we're looking at some signings, some injury updates, some recalls and reassignments, a couple of waiver updates, plus we got some massive trade rumors involving the Flames, the Rangers, the Flyers, and the Edmonton Oilers. We'll touch on all of these teams coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below, don't forget to comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming in the very near future. Now, I'm going to restart implementing chapters into my videos, so if you guys just want to skip ahead to the trade rumor portion, you guys can. I ask that you do that if that's really what you want, but if you want to stay in the full video, we're going to start off as we usually do by talking about a couple of news updates. So we're going to start off with a signing from our past couple of days, and that was in the Florida Panthers organization. Depth defenseman Uvis Balinskis, who was a free agent, I think, acquisition a couple of years back, who was in the second year of a 2-year deal with the AAV of $850,000. He's a left shot defenseman, he's 29 years old. He was in the final year of his deal, but he's actually been doing pretty good as like a solid third pair defenseman. So the Florida Panthers assigned him to a contract extension. Dude gets a 2-year extension with the AAV of $875,000. Not a bad pickup here from the Panthers. Balinskis last year in his first full NHL season had career numbers, not surprising there, putting up 4 goals and 18 points in 76 games. So far this year has 9 points, including 2 goals in 37 games. He's on pace to do a little bit better than last year, maybe just a couple less games. So very interesting note there. He's a decent depth defenseman. I don't think this is a bad deal. If it doesn't work out, they can always bury him in the minors. So really solid move here from the Florida Panthers as they sent Balinskis to a 2-year extension. It was, however, the only signing we saw from our past couple of days. So next we're going to go over to a couple of injury updates. So when it comes to some injury updates, we're just going to try and get through the injury updates quick here. So first, Troy Terry, who has missed 3 games with upper body injury, was placed in injury reserve, so he's going to miss at least a little bit of time, although he should be able to get back in the very near future if he is healthy. Leo Carlsson underwent a left thigh procedure and is going to be out 3 or 5 weeks, so that's a bad blow there, as the Ducks are going to be without their superstar forward for the next couple of weeks. Michael Catherine, who missed a week with an injury, was active off of injury reserve and returned to game action on Thursday, so that's a big boost there for the Sabres blue line. While Josh Doon, who has a more body injury, like we talked about in our last video, has officially been placed in injury reserve. He's going to miss about a month at least, so not too surprising there. And Josh Norris suffered upper body injury on Wednesday and is out day-to-day. That is awful. Norris has had so many injury problems throughout his entire career, so hopefully it's nothing too serious, but he is out day-to-day at this current point in time. Noah Philp, who's been out for almost 2 weeks with a concussion, has officially been placed in injury reserve, just to give the Canes a little more roster flexibility, so that's not too surprising there. Ross Colton missed Friday's game with the upper body injury and is out day-to-day, so not great news there for the Avs, as Colton is a really solid middle 6 forward. Eric Branson, who hadn't played since late October with a hip injury, was active off of injury reserve and returned to game action on Thursday, so it's a big boost for the Jackets blue line to get a solid veteran Branson back into the lineup. Cole Schwinn, who missed 2 months with a broken arm, was active off of injury reserve and returned to game action on Friday, so it's a big boost for the Panthers to get a solid depth forward and Schwinn back. The Wild got a horrible news over the past couple of days, as Jonas Brodin, who's missed a couple of games, as I said, has missed a couple more weeks, was placed on injured reserve, as well as Eriksson Ek, who has been out for about a week with a lower body injury, and Matt Boldy, who was injured on Thursday with an undisclosed injury. So not great news there. Ek and Brodin have already missed a little bit of time. Brodin was already going to be out for a couple of weeks. Not too surprising to see those guys be placed in injury reserve. Boldy's a really bad blow for the Wild. He's at least going to miss 3 to 4 games for the Wild. So that is a very terrible blow there for the Minnesota Wild. So some very bad injury blows for the Wild on their forward group. Adam Wilsby is out with a lower body injury and is out day-to-day right now. He missed Friday's game, so not sure the extent of that injury, but he's at least out at a day-to-day period at this current point in time. Ty Dellandre, who missed a few games with a lower body injury, was placed in injury reserve, so not too surprising there. Just gives San Jose a little more roster flexibility. Will Smith, who had missed a month with upper body injury, was active off of injury reserve and returned to game action on Friday, so big boost for the Sharks last night to get Will Smith back into the lineup, so great news there. Brendan Montour, who missed 3 weeks after having hand surgery, was activated off of injury reserve and returned to game action on Thursday. Big boost for the Kraken. Montour is ahead of schedule, so seeing them get arguably their best defenseman back into the lineup was great news there for Seattle. Robert Thomas, who was dealing with a lower body injury, was active off of injury reserve and will be really evaluated in 2 weeks. So bad blow there for the Blue Blues to lose arguably their best player for the next couple of weeks. Brendan Sato has an undisclosed injury and is out day to day, and Carter Hart, who has a lower body injury and is out week to week, have both been placed on injured reserve. They both missed a couple of games as well, so not too surprising there. Gives them a little more roster flexibility. Not too surprising to see Hart on injured reserve, while Aiden Hill, who had been out since October 20th with a lower body injury, was active off of injured reserve, long-term injured reserve that is, and returned to game action on Thursday. Huge boost for the Golden Knights to get their starting goaltender back into the lineup. Schmid had been having to hold on the fort over the past couple of games, and he did quite well, but to see Aiden Hill get back is great news there for the Vegas Golden Knights. So very interesting note there. And Justin Sourduff, who has missed a few games recently with upper body injury, is placed on injury reserve. Once again, not too surprising there. He should be able to get activated whenever he's healthy, but that just gives the Washington Capitals a little more roster flexibility. So very interesting note there. So some very interesting injury updates from our past couple of days. Next, going over to some recalls, reassignments, and waivers. So some very interesting things here. So when it comes to some recalls, the Ducks recalled Colangelo because of the injuries to Terry and Carlsson. The Sabres recalled Hellenius because of the injury to Norris. The Canes recalled Nystrom because of the injury to Philp. The Avalanche recalled Ivan and Badarkov. They recently just got sent back down, so they're right back up with the Colorado Avalanche's NHL team. Gustafsson was recalled by Detroit, so they add some more blue line help. Abuki, Bell, Haight, and Juracek were all recalled by the Minnesota Wild due to the injuries to Eric Sneck, Brodin, and Boldy. The Preds recalled England with the injury to Willsby. The Rangers recalled Mackey to add some more blue line help for the Rangers. Kolosov was recalled by Philadelphia because of the injury to Dan Vladar. Halverson was recalled by Tampa to add some more goaltending insurance for Tampa. And Miroshnichenko was recalled by the Washington Capitals because of the injury to Justin Sourduff. So some very interesting ones to note there. I can't wait to see how Nystrom, Colangelo, see if Hellenius gets a look at the NHL level. I will see if Haight or Juracek get a look at the NHL level, or Miroshnichenko. So we should see how those guys do at the NHL level after they got recalled. When it comes to some reassignments, Nestorenko in Anaheim, Lambos in Minnesota, Beck and Fowler in Montreal, Melanson in Seattle, and Lindbaum in Vegas were all sent back down to their AHL affiliates. The Ducks didn't need Nestorenko at the NHL level anymore. He had already cleared waivers, so he gets sent back down. With the recent recalls, they didn't need Lambos at the NHL level, so the Wild sent Lambos back to the AHL. So very interesting note there. Now for the Canadians moving Beck and Fowler down, does make some sense. Like Beck was just called up to be some added forward insurance, so they sent him down. Fowler was recalled because they sent, I think it was Montembeault back down on the conditioning stint a little while ago, but now he's back up, so they don't need Fowler at the NHL level anymore. Both promising young players, but not too surprising they get sent back down to the AHL. Melanson was sent down by the Kraken. A little bit surprising there. He seemed to be fitting in quite well with Seattle, but after the Montour activation, they don't need him at the NHL level anymore, so they sent him back down to the minors. And Carl Lindbaum in Vegas was also sent back down to the AHL. They had him up because of the injuries to Hart and Hill, but now that Hill's back, they don't need him at the NHL level anymore. He did quite well at the NHL level, but with him not needing to be at the NHL level anymore because of Hill, they sent him back to the AHL, so that's once again not too surprising. So some very interesting reassignments from over the past couple of days. Next, going over to a couple of quick waiver updates. Not too much waiver updates here to talk about. Both guys, I do not know the outcome of these yet because as of the recording of this video, they have not completely cleared waivers yet. But Juho Lammikko as well as Colton White in New Jersey were both placed on waivers for the purpose of demotion, so to be sent to the AHL. Lammikko's a decent fourth line forward. He came over from Europe in the past offseason, was a decent bottom six forward, but the Devils don't really need him at the NHL level right now. White started the AHL level, was recalled, had a couple of really decent stints at the NHL level for the Devils, but needs to go back down on waivers again. I don't think either one of these guys winds up getting claimed. I think it's most likely that both these guys clear and get sent to the AHL. Maybe White, because he did look pretty good during his call-ups this year. Maybe, but I think most likely White and Lammikko will both clear waivers. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Not sure as of recording this video if they clear or not, but those two players are on waivers, and we shall see if they do wind up getting cleared in our next trade rumor video. So definitely go for stay tuned for that. And lastly, going over to a couple of trade rumors. So we got a couple of trade rumors here to talk about, some very interesting ones. We're going to start off in the Edmonton Oilers organization with the Oilers and the Flyers. Jim Matheson recently was talking about the Edmonton Oilers because he is a reporter for Edmonton, not the most connected insider, but he does say he wonders if Daniel Briere, GM of the Philadelphia Flyers, is potentially keeping tabs on Calvin Pickard. Now, we know that the Philadelphia Flyers don't have the greatest goaltending situation. Sam Ersson, I didn't realize this until I looked into some stats. He's having a terrible season. I think he has like a 5-8-7 887 record or something like that. Like, it's not really good. His stats are like, I think he has a sub 880 save percentage or something like that, or around 880. His goals against average are not great either. So Ersson's not being overly good. And Dan Vladar, who is currently the starter and has been getting more of the games this year for the Philadelphia Flyers, is currently injured. So the Flyers are losing points because of that. They're on a 5-game losing streak right now. And a lot of people do think that Briere will want to keep this team in the playoff hunt. So Matheson does wonder if maybe the Oilers' Calvin Pickard could be an answer for Daniel Briere. Now, that's very interesting out there. I think a couple of months ago, we would have said it's very unlikely for the Edmonton Oilers, but if you look at the Oilers' goaltending situation right now, it's in pretty good hands. They have Tristan Jarry, who just recently came back off of injury. He's a good starter. Ingram's doing pretty good as the backup for the Oilers right now. So basically, Pickard's the third stringer at current point in time for the Edmonton Oilers. And of course, you know, it's better to have some insurance with Jarry's health injuries and stuff like that. But if they could get something for Pickard, that might make some sense. I think Pickard could be a decent tandem goaltender with Ersson until Vladar gets back. And if Ersson's still being basically unplayable at the NHL level, they could run with a Pickard-Vladar tandem to enter the NHL's playoffs if they do make it there. So that's a very interesting concept. It wouldn't take too much to acquire Pickard, I don't think, because he's not overly expensive goaltender. He's not a clear-cut starter. I think it would be like at most a third-round pick to sort of pry Pickard out of Edmonton. So we'll have to wait and see on that. No guarantees that the Oilers really want to trade Pickard because he's a really solid third stringer, but there has been some linkage according to Jim Matheson between the Flyers and Calvin Pickard, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Next, going over to Nick Kyperos. As I mentioned before, he's not the most connected insider. I don't trust him as much as guys like Friedman and Saravalli and the guys on TSN, so take those with a grain of salt. But Nick Kyperos does say that according to his sources, if Jason Robertson in Dallas wants around ransom and money, which is around the $12 million mark, the Stars may not want to sign him to that sort of an extension and would consider moving him, wanting a star forward back in return. So that's interesting out there. We did hear some small rumblings about Jason Robertson in the offseason. It didn't really amount to anything, but Robertson's an RFA. He's looking for big money. He's having a really good season this year. I think he's on pace for like 90 plus points. He's probably in the 30 to 40 goal mark at this point in time, on pace for that. So very interesting out there. Robertson is an elite level playmaker and goal scorer. He can really shoot the puck. He would be a huge addition for basically every team on the NHL level. Now, the Stars really want someone back. My guess would be someone who maybe is signed for a couple of years, who is cost controlled, or maybe someone who's closer to being a UFA or RFA, and they think can get for like maybe under $10 million or something like that. I'm not exactly sure who they go after or who would go after Robertson. Like, I think there would be a ton of teams who have some interest in Robertson. I think it would take a big trade package to pry him out of Dallas, but it would be a very interesting concept. I don't know which teams at this point in time would be linked to Jason Robertson. Like, I personally do not know. There'd be probably a couple of teams who are playoff bound who would love to add him. I wonder if Vegas would have some interest, Edmonton would have some interest, Toronto, Detroit, Montreal. There's probably a couple of other teams out there too who would love to add a Jason Robertson. Not sure what a trade package could look like either. Like, they probably want to start NHL caliber forward, maybe like a first round pick, maybe some sort of a prospect or another piece of draft capital or something like that. So I'm not sure exactly what sort of a deal could happen involving Jason Robertson. And with the Stars still being heavily in a playoff spot right now, and given the fact he is an RFA, I think that's a deal that could be pushed off until the offseason. So I don't think anything's going to happen for sure before the March 7th trade deadline. But it's a very interesting concept that maybe Jason Robertson could be available from the Dallas Stars. So I'll have to wait and see on that. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below if you think Robertson could actually get moved. And now the last two trade rumors here are more pressing ones that could have some solutions in the very near future, potentially even before this video hits YouTube. So we're going to start off with New York Rangers. Elliot Friedman recently did an article saying that the New York Rangers are going through a rebuild. Remember a couple of years back, it's probably about 7-8 years now, in the 17-18 season, I think, when the Rangers put out that statement saying that they were going through a full rebuild and they just were bracing fans for the eventual sell-off of a whole bunch of pieces. They did a similar thing earlier yesterday. They did say that they are going to go through a retool and that veterans are going to get moved. Now, Elliot Friedman does say that 5 players who have expressed their interest to stay in New York and do not want to be moved will be Mika Zibanejad, JT Miller, Vladislav Gavrikov, Adam Fox, and Igor Igor Shesterkin. Those guys are going to be the cornerstones of the New York Rangers' next phase. But they're going to move off some veterans. They're going to move off some pieces. Guys that come to mind that could be moved. Guys who are on shorter-term deals. Carson Soucy on the defensive end could potentially be moved. I do wonder if they maybe try and keep Braden Schneider or if they try and move him. Like if Schneider comes available, that could be a really interesting piece. If someone's looking for like some added backup goaltending insurance, could they go after Jonathan Quick? The big names, Panarin, obviously, he's going to get a lot of interest. He could be dealt in the very near future. Potentially by the time this video hits YouTube, not exactly sure what could happen. Some potential frontrunners, in my opinion at least, would be Minnesota and Columbus. Minnesota because of the Kaprizov connection, and Columbus because he was in Columbus before he signed as a free agent in the Rangers organization. So I do wonder if one of those two teams maybe makes a run at trying to sign him. They also have a whole bunch of Russians on their team. So it would be very interesting to note there. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee or anything, but it would be very interesting to see Panarin either go to Columbus or Minnesota. There are probably a couple of other teams who have some major interest, but I definitely think we'll see a Panarin trade in the coming weeks. Maybe a guy like Carson Soucy, maybe a couple of other guys too. We'll have to wait and see on that. I wonder about Jonathan Quick. I wonder about Braden Schneider. Vincent Trocheck's another name. David Penoa recently mentioned that the Minnesota Wild do have some serious interest in Vincent Trocheck, which makes some sense because they do have a rather weak center group. So that would be a very interesting possibility too. So it seems that the Rangers are going to go through at least some sort of a rebuild or a retool. They're not going to sell off all of their veterans, but they're going to sell off a whole bunch of pieces. And they're going to be one of the teams to watch out for over the next couple of weeks leading up into the March 7th trade deadline, because they are the worst team in the Eastern Conference right now by a wide margin. The only team in the Eastern Conference right now below 500. So keep an eye on the New York Rangers. Panarin, Trocheck, Quick, Schneider, Soucy. There's a lot of guys who could be available from the New York Rangers who could be moved for the right price. So we shall wait and see on that. And lastly, going over to the Calgary Flames. Elliot Friedman plus a couple of other insiders mentioned this too. And they said that Rasmus Andersson traction is picking up and that we could be hearing a trade in the next 24 to 48 hours. It seems like an Andersson trade is imminent and could happen before this video even hits YouTube. So if it does, I'm sorry for the delay of info and things like that. But Andersson, it seems like, is going to get dealt soon. Now, when Friedman was talking about this a little while ago, I think it was earlier on Friday, he mentioned that the Bruins were on and off. The Stars were looking around Rasmus Andersson. The Knights have always had some interest, which are very interesting out there. Boston, Dallas, Vegas. I've heard of Dallas and Vegas a whole bunch. Boston's a little bit interesting. But late last night, there was a couple of rumblings on Twitter. Now, I'm not sure if these are really connected insiders or sources or things like that, but there was a couple of Twitter accounts saying that Andersson was getting dealt to the Boston Bruins for a potential package of something like Lohrei, Poitras, and a first-round pick. Now, that would be very interesting. Like, if that sort of a deal happened, the Flames could get like a really solid center prospect, a really solid defensive player, and a solid first-round pick. I think it was the Leafs' first-round pick. So that could be very interesting. It sounded like Andersson was going to get dealt to Boston with potentially a contract extension in place. So very interesting note there. It will be very, very interesting if that actually did happen. I think this deal would probably benefit the Flames more than the Bruins. But once again, I'm not sure if these are connected insiders or this is a very likely trade to possibly happen. So we should wait and see on that. But it does seem like an Andersson trade is coming to fruition in the very near future, and potentially one of the top, if not the top defensive trade candidate on the block right now, could potentially get moved in the very near future. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Once again, if an Andersson trade has happened before this video hits YouTube, I'm sorry for the delayed info, and I'll probably try and make a video as soon as I can about that Andersson trade. Hey everyone, just wanted to provide a quick update regarding Rasmus Andersson. It has been a couple of hours since I took my trade rumor video. I talked about in that video how there were some reports on Twitter saying that the Flames were trading Andersson to the Boston Bruins and it will be announced in the morning. Well, we got some updates from Darren Dreger regarding this situation. He says that nothing is finalized. There's been no trade that has been officially agreed upon. Andersson is expected to play later today against the New York Islanders, which is a little bit surprising. But Dreger does say that there are 4 teams who are currently in the mix for trying to land Rasmus Andersson. Boston is one of them, as well as the Vegas Golden Knights. Those 2 teams are definitely apparently heavily in the mix to land Rasmus Andersson. And apparently Dreger says there's also another Eastern Conference team and another Western Conference team who are also in the mix right now. So I'm not sure who those teams are. A lot of people have been speculating Dallas in the West, potentially Detroit or the Islanders in the East as those other teams. So we should wait and see on that. So just wanted to provide an update. No Andersson trade is coming to fruition fruition at this current point in time. It sounds like he will play later today. While Andersson trade does sound like it's going to happen in the very near future, it has not happened this morning and probably won't happen until after the Flames game later today. So just wanted to provide that update. Thanks for staying tuned. Now getting back to the regularly scheduled video. So lots to see on that. Andersson could be going to Boston. If not Boston, Dallas and Vegas seem to be a couple of other teams who do have some interest in Rasmus Andersson, and the Andersson trade I personally feel will happen in the very near future. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But that's what I'm going to talk about for today. I'll let you guys thoughts. Do you think that the Calgary Flames move Rasmus Andersson could happen in the next couple of days? What do you think about the Rangers potentially going through a retool/rebuild sort of phase in their organization? Do the Dallas Stars move off of Jason Robertson? And could the Philadelphia Flyers try and acquire Calvin Pickard? Definitely, I would love to hear all of your guys' thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video. And if you really liked it, remember to subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming out in the very near future. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so remember to check that out. I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. Can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.